message about why certain people are no longer in your life, about why certain connections feel blocked, distant, unreachable. You have been calling it loneliness. Heaven calls it protection. Stay with me, because what comes next is going to explain something you have felt for a long time, but never had the words for. Validating the invisible. Let me describe something, and I want you to tell me, in your spirit, whether this is true. There are people you used to speak to every day. People who had your number, your trust, your energy. And somewhere along the way, the calls stopped. The conversations dried up. Plans were made and canceled. Messages were sent and left unread. And you sat with your phone in your hand, wondering what you did wrong. You replayed conversations. You analyzed your words. You asked yourself, am I too much? Am I not enough? Did I change? Did they? And then there's something else, something quieter. In your most honest moments, and I mean those moments at night when it's just you and your thoughts, you felt a relief. A small, quiet exhale that you immediately felt guilty about. As if some invisible pressure had been lifted the moment certain people stepped back. You felt that, and then you suppressed it, because it didn't make sense to feel relieved about losing people. But what if that relief was not guilt? What if that relief was recognition? Pause for a moment. Take a breath, because I need you to understand what has actually been happening in your life. You have been in a season of divine separation, not abandonment, not punishment, separation. And there is a profound difference between the two. You have been feeling it in other ways too. You walk into certain rooms and feel an inexplicable heaviness. Like the air is thick with something you cannot name. You sit with certain people and leave feeling emptied, drained, as if the conversation reached into something inside you and took without asking. You have started choosing silence over noise, solitude over social obligations you once felt chained to. That is not depression. That is discernment being activated. The signs. I want to walk you through what God has actually been doing, because it hasn't looked the way you expected. It never does. Sign 1. The relationships that faded without a fight. Listen closely to what comes next. Some of the people who disappeared from your life, you never argued with them. There was no dramatic falling out. No confrontación. No cloche. They simply drifted, became unavailable, moved on, and you were left holding a question mark. That is not an accident. When God removes someone without drama, it is mercy. It is protection delivered quietly. Because if you had seen what was beneath the surface of certain connections, the jealousy that smiled at your face, the words spoken about you in rooms you never entered, the energy that celebrated your struggle while performing your cheerleader, it would have broken something in you. So instead, heaven created distance, engineered delays in communication, made the connection feel naturally exhausting until you both let go. Protection often feels like rejection. Write that down if you need to. Sign 2. The sudden emotional weight with no clear source. You have been carrying a heaviness lately, and you cannot explain it. Nothing catastrophic has happened. Your life, on paper, is manageable, but internally, there is this pressure, this low hum of anxiety that sits just beneath the surface of every ordinary moment. You wake with it. You carry it through your day. You lay down with it at night. I need you to hear this carefully. That weight is not yours. There are people who have been directing their unprocessed pain, their envy, their bitterness, consciously or unconsciously, toward your energy field. You are an empathetic soul. You absorb. You have always absorbed. And what you have been calling your anxiety is, in many cases, the emotional residue of people who are struggling with who you are becoming. Your elevation is threatening to people who chose stagnation, and you feel their resistance like weather. Sign 3. The repeated urge to withdraw and rebuild in silence. You have felt an unusually strong pull towards solitude recently, toward quiet, toward saying no to gatherings and events that once felt mandatory, toward protecting your time and your peace with an urgency that surprises even you. Do not fight this. In Scripture, Elijah retreated to the wilderness before his restoration. Moses spent 40 years in the desert before the burning bush. Jesus withdrew to the garden before his greatest test. Solitude is not stagnation. Solitude is preparation. God does not fill a vessel that is still being poured into by the wrong sources. The withdrawal you feel is heaven creating space, clearing the room, making way. Sign 4. Old versions of yourself are dying, and it feels like grief. Pause for a moment. Take a breath. This one is important. You have been grieving something that you cannot fully name. It is not a person. It is not a place. It is a version of yourself that you have outgrown. The self that tolerated what you no longer can. The self that stayed quiet to keep peace. The self that shrunk to fit spaces that were always too small. That version of you is leaving, and grief is the appropriate response to any death, even the death of who you used to be. Proverbs 3 verse 5 says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding." Your understanding says, something is wrong, something is broken, I am falling behind. Heaven says, I am repositioning you. The reframe. I want to reframe everything you have experienced in this recent season. The loneliness? It is a perimeter. God placing a boundary around you while He works on what is coming, so that what is coming arrives uncorrupted by the hands of people who are not assigned to your next level. The faded friendships? Divine reassignment. Their chapter in your story has concluded. Not because you failed, not because you were unlovable, because the narrative is advancing. The emotional heaviness? Evidence that you are sensitive enough to sense the spiritual activity around you. That sensitivity is not a weakness. It is a gift that is currently being calibrated. Luke 8 verse 17 reminds us, "For there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open." Everything that has been hidden about the people in your life, their intentions, their loyalty, their capacity to carry your future with them, is being disclosed. Quietly, through distance, through silence, through the way they respond or don't when you begin to rise. You are not being abandoned. You are being selected. The shift prediction. I want to speak to the next 48 to 72 hours specifically. There's a shift occurring right now in the background of your life that your natural eyes cannot yet see. A repositioning, a quiet unlocking of doors that have been closed for a season. You're going to feel it first as a lightness, a sudden clarity, a morning where you wake up and the wait is simply less. Pay attention to who reaches out to you in this window. Pay attention to what opportunities surface. Pay attention to the ideas that arrive quietly, not loudly, not urgently, but with a steadiness that feels different from before. And pay attention to what and who you no longer feel the pull toward. Because God is not just bringing things to you in this season. He is completing the work of removing what was never meant to stay. If this message found you today, if even one moment of this felt like it was written directly for your life, I need you to do one thing. Go to the comments right now and type 444. 444 is your declaration. It is your acknowledgement that you receive this realignment, that you trust the process of divine separation, that you are ready for what has been prepared for you on the other side of this season of quiet. And if you know someone who has been calling their loneliness a failure, Share this with them, because sometimes the most divine thing we can do for another soul is hand them the mirror at exactly the right moment. You were guided here today, and you will not leave the same.